There's a strange feeling some people get, a sense that this existence is their final round, like they've seen it all before, as if they're on the verge of transcending something greater. What if reincarnation isn't just an endless loop, but a system with an exit? Some people might be living their last human life, reaching the final stage before breaking free from the cycle of rebirth. The question is, how would you know? The signs are not what you think. If you recognize these, you might be at the edge of something extraordinary. Before we break down the signs, let's explain some concepts about the life cycles. Many religions and philosophies suggest that we're trapped in a cycle of reincarnation, where the soul undergoes repeated births and deaths until it achieves a certain level of awareness. But modern physics complicates this idea. If time isn't linear and consciousness isn't confined to the body, then reincarnation might not be a sequence. It could be all lives happening at once, just from different angles. If so, escaping the cycle wouldn't mean progressing forward, but stepping outside of time itself. The signs of a last life soul might not be about advancement in the traditional sense, but rather about realizing that reality itself is an illusion. But then, if you have the following 7 traits, you're in your last life cycle. 1. You feel like a stranger in the human experience. No matter how much you engage with life, something inside you feels separate from it. You can participate in relationships, conversations, and daily routines, but it always feels like you're watching from a distance, like an actor playing a role that doesn't quite fit. Other people seem deeply invested in the drama of life, chasing money, status, power, but for you, it all feels hollow, like a game where the rules don't matter anymore. You're not disconnected from reality in a depressive way. Rather, you're detached because something in you recognizes that none of it is permanent. None of it is real in the way most people think it is. It's as if you're experiencing life as an observer, watching the play unfold while knowing the ending. This feeling aligns eerily with theories in quantum physics. Some interpretations of quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness is not inside the brain, but rather a field that exists beyond physical reality. If that's the case, then what we experience as self might just be a temporary avatar, a projection we identify with until we wake up. People on their last reincarnation might not be lost souls. They might be the ones closest to realizing that self was never real in the first place. The deeper you go into this awareness, the more the world starts to feel like a dream you're waking up from, one where nothing ever belonged to you, and you never truly belonged to it. Now, if reincarnation exists as a cycle of learning, why do some people reach a point where they no longer feel the need to learn? What if the point of reincarnation was never about growth, but about recognizing that growth itself is an illusion? If you feel like a stranger in life, it may be because you are no longer bound to it in the same way others are. You've seen the loops play out before. You don't need more lessons. You just need to wake up. 2. Déjà vu is not just familiarity, it's cross-timeline awareness. Most people dismiss déjà vu as a trick of the brain, a misfiring of neurons that creates the illusion of familiarity. But what if déjà vu is something far more profound, an indication that you are aware of something beyond time itself? If you experience déjà vu not just as a vague familiarity, but as an overwhelming certainty that you have lived this exact moment before, then something strange is happening. It's not just a memory, it's a recognition, as if your consciousness is momentarily slipping between timelines. People in their final reincarnation often report intense déjà vu, but not just from their current life. They experience flashes from lives they've never lived in this reality, places they've never been, and knowledge they were never taught. If time is non-linear, as suggested by Einstein's relativity and recent quantum theories, then reincarnation may not work in a sequential order. Instead of past lives following one after another, all your lives may be happening simultaneously, with your consciousness simply shifting between them. This would mean that déjà vu is not a memory at all. It's a glitch in the simulation, a moment where you remember a parallel version of yourself experiencing the same event. If this happens to you frequently, it might mean that you're becoming more aware of the multi-layered nature of existence. The deeper your déjà vu gets, the closer you may be to breaking free from the illusion of time altogether. 3. You no longer fear death, not because you don't care, but because you remember. Fear of death is considered a fundamental human instinct. We're biologically wired to avoid danger, to preserve our bodies at all costs. Yet, despite this, you don't feel the same existential dread that others do. It's not that you're reckless, nor is it that you have a death wish. Instead, there's a calm certainty in you, a deep knowing that death is nothing to fear. This is one of the strongest signs that your soul is nearing the end of its reincarnation cycle. The reason is simple. You've been through this before. You've died so many times that the process no longer scares you. The idea of ceasing to exist doesn't even feel real to you, because something in you remembers what comes after. This lack of fear directly contradicts mainstream evolutionary psychology, which tells us that we should be terrified of the unknown. But what if the unknown isn't actually unknown to you? What if, on a subconscious level, you still retain memories from past deaths? Near-death experiences often describe an overwhelming sense of peace, a feeling of returning home rather than facing an ending. If this sounds familiar to you, if death seems more like a transition than a finality, then it's possible that your consciousness is already preparing to exit the reincarnation cycle. Now consider what this means. If death is just a doorway, then the real prison isn't mortality, it's forgetting. The reincarnation cycle only works if you don't remember what happens after. But if you do remember, if some part of you knows that existence doesn't stop when the body does, then you've already broken part of the illusion. You've already glimpsed the truth. And if you're seeing the illusion for what it is, you may already be standing at the edge of escaping it for good. 4. You experience unexplainable synchronicities. The universe is responding to you. Most people dismiss coincidences as random events with no deeper meaning. But for you, life doesn't feel random at all. You've noticed a strange pattern. Whenever you think about something, it appears. When you need an answer, it finds you. When you feel lost, the right sign shows up, guiding you like a map hidden inside reality itself. These are not accidents. Synchronicities are one of the strongest indicators that you are reaching the end of your reincarnation cycle, because they suggest that you are no longer simply inside the illusion. You are interacting with it. Think about what this means. If reality responds to your thoughts, then what exactly is it? Quantum mechanics has already shown us that observation affects reality. Particles behave differently when they are being watched. This suggests that consciousness is not just a byproduct of the brain, it might be the very fabric of existence itself. If that's true, then what we call life might be nothing more than a complex interactive simulation, where those nearing the end of the cycle begin to see the code behind the game. You've noticed that your thoughts shape the world around you. You've seen too many coincidences to believe in randomness anymore. It's as if you're becoming lucid in the dream of life. And here comes the paradox. If you can see through the illusion, doesn't that mean you are already outside of it? What if the final reincarnation isn't about learning one last lesson, but about realizing there was never anything to learn? What if the cycle ends not when you earn enlightenment, but when you understand that the whole system was a construct designed to keep you looping inside it? If life is mirroring your thoughts, then you might already be breaking the boundaries of the program. You're not just inside reality anymore, you're bending it. 5. You feel an overwhelming sense of completion, as if there's nothing left to chase. Most people move through life with an insatiable hunger for more. More money, more success, more love, more validation. They live in a constant state of longing, always looking for the next thing to make them feel whole. But you don't feel that need anymore. It's not that you don't have goals, but rather that you don't feel incomplete without them. There's nothing left for you to prove, nothing left to desperately chase. This isn't laziness, it's something deeper. It's the realization that everything outside of you was never the answer to begin with. This is one of the clearest signs that you are reaching the final stage of reincarnation. Your soul has played every role, experienced every extreme, wealth and poverty, love and heartbreak, power and powerlessness. And now, there is nothing left to grasp at. Ancient spiritual texts describe this as the moment when the soul is no longer bound by karma. The cycle of reincarnation is said to be fueled by attachment, desires, fears, unfinished lessons. But when those attachments dissolve, so does the need to return. You no longer feel like you must do something or be something to justify your existence. You already are. 6. You sense that reality is not the base layer. You can feel the edges of the illusion. Most people take reality at face value. The sky is blue, objects are solid, time moves forward. But you've always had a nagging suspicion that something is off. Maybe it started when you realized that everything we see is just how our brains interpret energy. Color doesn't exist. Our eyes only detect wavelengths of light that objects reflect. Touch isn't real either. No two atoms actually make contact. The world we navigate is just a sensory projection, a perception built by our brains. And if our perception isn't reality, then what is? This question isn't just philosophical, it's backed by physics. Scientists are increasingly considering the possibility that the universe is a hologram, that what we experience as physical space is just encoded information projected from a deeper dimension. The moment you start sensing this, the moment you start questioning whether this world is the base reality, you are already standing at the threshold of something greater. If reincarnation is a system, then what happens when someone realizes that the system itself is not real? The cycle breaks, the illusion dissolves. You don't reincarnate back into the game because you've realized that you were never inside it to begin with. 7. You know that you were never real, and that's the final key to liberation. Here's the final and most difficult truth. You are not who you think you are. The idea of you as an individual, separate from everything else, is an illusion created by the mind. Your thoughts, your personality, your memories, none of them define you. They are temporary, like waves forming on the surface of an ocean. And when the wave crashes, the ocean remains. What if that's what reincarnation is? A wave rising and falling, over and over again, until it finally realizes it was never separate from the ocean to begin with. This is why ego death is considered the last step before liberation. The cycle of reincarnation is not about your soul becoming better or wiser. It's about breaking the very idea that you are a someone moving through time at all. The moment you see through the illusion of self, the entire structure collapses. The need to reincarnate disappears because there is no longer an I that needs to return. Many spiritual traditions teach that the final realization before enlightenment is not, I am divine, but rather, I am nothing. And yet, in becoming nothing, you become everything. So, what happens when the cycle ends? Do you vanish, merge with the universe, become something else entirely? No one can say for certain. But if you resonate with this, if something in you has always felt that you were never real in the first place, then you may be on the very edge of something unimaginable. The moment you let go, the moment you stop clinging to the illusion of self, you are free. If you have made it this far, comment down below with the word 100% to confirm that you have received the knowledge from this video. For more interesting topics, make sure you watch the recommended video that you see on the screen right now. Thanks for watching.